It is the 7th of November, 2020. Chapter 2. Intermission. The pressure crushing their heads to the ground suddenly vanished. Even after the departure of the master of their revered creators, nobody raised their heads. After a while, someone sighed in relief. The tense atmosphere was gone now. The first to get up was Albedo. Her white dress was stained where her knee had touched the ground, but she did not mind it at all. She flapped her wings to swipe off the dirt on her feathers. After seeing Albedo rise, the others followed suit. Nobody dared to speak. That was scary, Nichan. Yeah, I thought I'd be squashed flat. As expected of Mononaga-sama, to think his presence would have such a great effect on us Vogons. As a supreme being, his might overwhelms ours, but I did not expect him to be this powerful. Thus the Guardians shared their impressions of Mononaga. The aura that Mononaga emitted was the source of the power that had crushed the Guardians to the ground. Despair aura. Besides inflicting a fear effect, it could reduce the stats of its victims. Normally it would not have an effect on the level 100 NPCs, but on this occasion, its effect had been strengthened by the staff of Iron Soul God. Mononaga-sama must have unleashed the air of authority that represents his right to rule. Indeed, before we started our positions, Mononaga-sama did not exert his might. However, once we showed ourselves to the role of foreguarders, he must have revealed a fraction of his power to us. In other words, Mononaga-sama revealed his true ability as a ruler in response to our pledges of loyalty. That does seem like the case. He didn't radiate that aura when he was with us. Mononaga-sama was kind and gave us something to drink when we were thirsty. Our word caused the other guardians to emit an air of tension. It was condensed jealousy that was almost visible to the naked eye. The worst off was Albedo. Her clenched fist shuddered, and her nails threatened to rip through the fabric of her gloves. Mara's shoulder trembled, then his eyes went wide. That must have been the true power of Mononaga-sama, to rule of the great tomb of Nazareth. It was amazing. That changed the mood instantly. Exactly. He showed us his ability as an absolute ruler in response to our feelings, as expected of our Creator, the zenith of the 41 supreme beings, and the kind master who remained here with us until the very end. Albedo's words put a blissful look on all Guardians' faces, although the expression on Mara's face was better described as relaxed. There was nothing which could delight them more than the master who created, the master to whom they owed their utmost loyalty, revealing his true face to them. The Guardians know every entity created by the supreme beings wanted nothing more than to aid their creators in some way. The next best thing would be to receive their trust and to be treated as a useful servant. That was a simple, natural truth. This was the greatest joy in life for these characters who were created to aid the supreme beings. Then as though to wipe away this jubilant atmosphere, Sebas said from sight, "Then I shall take my leave first. I do not know where Mononaga-sama has gone, but I should stay by his side." Jealousy was written all over Albedo's face. She crushed her feelings in her mouth. "I understand." Then Sebas, "Serve Mononaga-sama well, and do not disgrace him. Report to me if anything happens. In particular, if Mononaga-sama summons you must let me know immediately. Everything else is of secondary importance to him." A pained expression crossed the merged face as he listened quietly from the side. "But if he desires me in his bedchamber, you must inform Mononaga-sama that it might be a while, in order to bath and cleanse myself for him. Of course, if he wants me to proceed to him immediately, that is fine as well. After all, I do my best to keep clean for him. My clothes have already been selected, so I can heed his call whenever it comes. In any case, Mononaga-sama wishes. It will always come first." "I understand, Albedo. If I were to waste too much time here, I would not have enough to properly serve Mononaga-sama, which would be disrespectful. Therefore, forgive my abrupt departure, but I must take my leave. Floor Guardians, I bid you all a good day." After saying his farewells to the wide-eyed and open-mouthed Guardians, Sebas immediately jogged away, as though to leave Albedo, who was preparing for a long monologue behind. "Speaking of which, is it fairly quiet around here? Shaltir, is something the matter?" After the merged questions, everyone's eyes went to Shaltir. She was still on him. "What is wrong, Shaltir?" She lifted her head after she was called again. The dazed look on her face make people think that she had just been woken up. What happened? After being exposed to Mononaga-sama's awesome presence, I could not help but get excited. I fear my underwear has gone through a bit of a crisis. Silence. Everyone looked at each other, unsure of what to say. The guardians mused that Shaltir had by far the most fetishes among them, and that one of said fetishes was necrophilia. They facepalmed as they thought about this. Although Mara didn't quite get it, it was thoroughly confused. No one of the guardians were not content to simply shake their head and sigh. That was Albedo. The jealousy surging in her made Albedo come out and say, "You slept." Shaltir sensed Albedo's hostility. She heard those scornful words. Her lips curled in hostility, and she responded with a bewitching smile. "What? Having Mononaga-sama, the most beautiful of the supreme beings, bless us with his energy is a reward. Anyone who doesn't get wet from that must have something wrong in their head. Or could it be that you don't just look pure, that you don't have any fleshy desires at all, you big-mouthed gorilla?" "You lamprey?" The two of them glared at each other. The guardians did not know if they would fight as a result of this, but the way they were looking at each other was very unsettling. "My appearance was created by the supreme beings. Are you unhappy with it? Shouldn't that be my line?" Shaltir slowly stood back up, and two of them approached each other. Even so, their eyes remained locked. Eventually, the two of them came so close that they could collide into each other. "Don't think you'd want just because your guardian overseer can stay next to Mononaga-sama. If you really think that way, I'll laugh my ass off." That is correct. While you're stationed in a faraway place, I will swoop in and achieve a complete victory." "What do you mean by complete victory?" "Teach me, Guardian Overseer." As a select, you should be fully aware of what that means. Throughout their trade of verbal barbs, neither of them had turned their gaze from each other. They simply looked into each other's eyes with a blank expression on their face. With a pacha, Alberto unfurled her wings in a threat of display. Black mist wretched Shaltir, she responded in kind, unwilling to admit weakness. Aura matters between women should be settled by a fellow woman. If anything happens, I'll come to help. Let me know when the time comes, all right?" "Hey, wait there, Merge. Are you planning to dump all of this on me?" The Merge simply was lazily as he walked away from the feuding pair. Koyetos and Mara took a step back as well. Nobody wanted to get caught between them. "Really? Do I have to argue over this sort of things?" "Personally, we'll be quite interested in the result." "What do you mean by the result, the Merge?" "I refer to increase our fighting power, the future of Nazareth, and so on." What do you mean?" The Merge pondered how he should answer Mara's question. For a moment, an evil impulse swept through the Merge's head, and he thought of infusing the simple Mara with adult knowledge, but he promptly discarded that line of thinking. The Merge was adept, and he was cruel and ruthless. That only applied to people outside Nazareth. To the Merge, the characters made by the 41 Supreme Beings were his companions. Any great leader requires a successor. No, Mononaga-sama may have stayed with us until the end. But if he loses interest in us one day, he may leave for another place like the rest of the Supreme Beings. Thus, there is a need for a successor to whom we can pledge our loyalty. I see then. Which of us will be Mononaga-sama's successor? How disrespectful. As guardians, we are to serve Mononaga-sama. Faithful, so you may state that is what way we made. The Merge turned to interrupting Claudius. Of course, I understand that, Cletus. But you do not wish to pledge your loyalty to Mononaga-sama's heir? Of course, I would like to swear my allegiance to Mononaga-sama's heir. Koyetos began imagining himself running around with that heir on his shoulders. Then he began imagining himself teaching him swordsmanship, drawing his blade to defend the young master, hearing the full-grown young master giving him orders. Oh, how wonderful! What a glorious sight! Someone unable to bear it, the Merge averted his eyes from Koyetos, who was fully imagining himself as a cool old uncle, faithfully serving Mononaga-sama. Well, that aside, I'm quite interested in knowing what our children can do for strengthening the great underground tomb of Nazareth. How about it, Mara? Do you want to make a child? Eh? Still, you don't have a partner. If you discover any human, dark elves, wood elves, or smaller species, will you kindly capture them for me? I have to think for a bit. Mara nodded and said, if it helps Mononaga-sama, I am willing to contribute. But how will I have children? We'll teach you about that when the time comes. But if you decide to try some breeding experiments on your own, Mononaga-sama might scold. After all, the operation of Nazariks are perfectly balanced. That is true. I've heard all their underlings were created after careful calculation by one of the supreme beings. If we carelessly increase our numbers, we will be scolded. I don't want to be scolded by Mononaga-sama. Of course. I don't want to be rebuked by the supreme beings either. If only I could set up a farm outside Nazarik. As the Merge thought of this, he decided to mention the one thing nobody had teased him about. Ah, yes, Mara. Why are you dressed as a girl? Mara grabbed his miniskirt to hide his leg. The Merge asked this question. This was Chama-sama's decision. She said this was called a trap, so it should have nothing to do with my gender. Ah, so this was Chama-sama's decision. Well then, those clothes should be fine on you. Although, should all boys dress that way? I don't know about that. The 41 supreme beings were no longer around. But even so, the mention of their names still compelled obedience. Or rather, in the great underground tomb of Nazarik, Mara was dressed as he should be. Nobody apart from another supreme being could change his wardrobe. I wonder if I should talk to Mononaga-sama about this. Perhaps all boys should be dressed like that. But I say, Koyetos, it is time to wake up. After hearing his colleague's words, Koyetos shook his head several times, a deeply satisfied smile on his face. Ah, what a beautiful sight. Truly it was everything I have ever dreamed of. Is that so? Well then, that's good. Albedo and Shaltea still fighting? The feuding pair's eyes were slightly averted. However, the one that answered the Merge was the fired-looking aura standing by the side. They're done. Right now, they're arguing about the problem of who should be their first wife. It would be strange for the ruler of the great tomb of Nazarik to only have one wife. The question now is who is worthy of being Mononaga-sama's first wife. Well, that is quite an interesting question. We should probably discuss that later. Alright, Alberto, won't you give us orders? There will be many things to do soon later. Indeed. You are right. I need to issue orders soon. Shaltea, I'll discuss this matter with you at length soon enough. You'll need to spend some time on it. I have no objections, Alberto. No other matter is more worthy of our time. Very well. Let us move on to our plans for the future. After seeing Alberto recover her dignity as the Guardian Overseer, all the Floor Guardians lowered their heads in respect. However, they did not genuflect. Of course, they had to show their respect to the Guardian Overseer Alberto, but she was not their master. Well, the 41 Supreme Beings had set her over all the other characters that they had created, but even in the position of Guardian Overseer was merely one set down by the 41 Supreme Beings, and as such, the other Guardians needed only to pay her the respect due to her station. Thus they lowered their heads to her. On her part, Alberto was not angry at this, because she knew that was the proper course of action. Firstly,